They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, or it also begins with a 3-part pilot episode and the introduction of all the main characters. It's Monday night at 7 p.m., and that must mean it's Mission Log Live. I'm Rekha Sharma.
And I'm John Champion. Buckle up, Star Trek pals. After launching off in La Sirena, it's time at last that Jean-Luc Picard and his crew of misfits go off to Free Cloud and find the whereabouts of Daj's sister and Bruce Maddox.
Romulan nuns, Romulan warriors, Romulan dudes hanging out at a bar, sexy Romulans on a Borg cube. We have all the Romulans, and you have all the questions and comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. So you can join us very easily by clicking on the Zoom meeting link or by using the one tap from your smartphone, or you can just dial us up at 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting code you see on the screen.
Yeah, that's right. I know that you're getting warmed up in the chat. I've seen it. I've seen what you've been saying. Well, we'll check in there in a second. So now all you need to do is to bring your thoughts to us face to face. You know what to do. Just like Rekha said, we always do what Rekha says. Click the link or use the one tap or call 669-900-6833 and we will be here to chat with you.
Yeah, and also a big thank you for tuning in. You know, you might be joining us live right now at facebook.com/missionlogpod or at youtube.com/Roddenberryprod. It always makes me giggle.
Do you have a Roddenberry prod? You should have
Excuse
one.
Me?
What?
Where? Who? It's private information.
Okay.
You might be watching this video later, or you might be picking up the audio-only podcast later. Either way, we do appreciate you joining us. And all we ask is that you hit like, you hit share, and you tell others to join us for Mission Log Live Talk Track.
Easy enough. So since we're talking about the people who are talking to and about us, let's check in. Let's say hi. There's Brian. Oh, and I love that Brian quoted a great line from the show, "One impossible thing at a time."
Oh,
How good is that line, right?
It's a great line.
Yes. We have Craig saying, hello, John and Rekha. Oh, look, he says, thanks for being awesome.
Oh, thank you for being awesome.
So cool. Yeah. Awesome. Right back to you, Craig. There's Paul, there's Cosmo, there's Tate, there's David. David says Free Cloud is a theme for something at STLV, I'm sure. We still have to see it this upcoming week. Yes. I like that idea a lot.
Me too.
Great. Oh, there's Cosmo. How's it going, Cosmo? There's Alan Perry, longtime listener of the show. He said, always do what Rekha says. Always. Yes, Alan. Yes, that's the way it works. It is. I'm enjoying the ride so far, I have to say. It's very good. Anything else? I didn't ask you before we went live. Anything coming up that we should make our audience aware of? Anything that you're up to? Or no, this is it. This is it. We're just going to leave it here.
What, you and me? Me?
Yeah, you.
Why am I always surprised that you're talking to me?
I'm going to ask everybody submit their schedules. Let us know what's going on. Just, just drop me a line to say, hey, next Thursday, I'm going to go have lunch with some friends. Like, cool, man.
Yeah,
Shout
man.
out to you. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm here doing this. There's some other things happening. We can talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. That's excellent.
We had a great BSG reunion this weekend. That was amazing.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Like the whole gang, just hanging out, just socially, just
Yeah, we got
for
together
fun?
to do
Yeah.
a reading of 33 for the Battlestar Galacticast podcast, which is awesome podcast. If you guys haven't checked it
Wow.
out and you like this one, you should check that one out too. They're rewatching the whole thing.
Wow.
But yeah, so we all got together to do a reading, which was super fun.
Huh.
And then some, some of the other people, writers and execs from back in the day came and joined the party, and we all hung out till like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was so great.
Wow. Now, wait a minute. Did the whole cast, did you read it and recorded it for release on the podcast?
Yeah.
Or that is rad.
Yeah.
All right.
And we all played like different parts. Like, I mean, Trisha played Six, Katie played Starbuck, but
yeah. the Ellison a few years ago when she totally says she was. Also, speaking of special relationships, tousled-haired Romulan is visited by statuesque Romulan, when the brother-sister teams sneer and tease each other about how their respective clandestine missions are going. It's the usual stuff, threats, choking, what gets Romulans excited. You're a bad spy. No, you're a bad spy. No, you stop. Okay, back to Vashti. Failing to get Elnor's help, Picard needs to hightail it out of town, but he has to wait to be beamed up by La Sirena until the planetary defense shield is taken down. With a few minutes to kill, he decides to stop by the Romulan cantina and trade a few barbs with this very unwelcoming crowd. They really hold a grudge, and it's sort of understandable. Picard, representing Starfleet, made all these promises to help in their time of need, but then the help dried up, and it seemed like Picard just abandoned everything. One of those Romulans, a former senator, straight up challenges Picard to a duel, a fight he doesn't want to take. He doesn't really have to, though, because who should show up in just the nick of time but Elnor, who apparently has had a change of heart, so much so that he beheads the ex-senator in a move straight out of Shogun. At least one of the other Romulans doesn't take too kindly and pulls out a disruptor. Thank goodness the planetary shield has opened just in time for Elnor and Picard to be beamed to safety. Safety may be the wrong word, though. La Sirena is under attack by a pirate and a vintage bird of prey, throwing disruptor volleys and catching our hero's ship between it and the planetary defenses. Out of nowhere, though, another ship appears ready to take on the offender and does admirably well, taking most of the blows, working with La Sirena to disable the Romulan until that little ship can't anymore. And it just bounces into the shield and explodes. Raffi, though, catches the pilot and a transporter. Welcome aboard, La Sirena. 7 of 9. The end. Or is it? Yeah. So, I know that you've got notes. I know that I've got notes.
Yeah.
But I also know that we have some friends sticking around ready to talk to us about absolute candor, and maybe with absolute candor. Maybe they will be absolutely full of candor when they talk to us about absolute candor.
I hope so.
Should we say hi to Ria, who has been waiting? Ria, how's it going tonight? Oh, wait, you're muted. You're muted. Oh, wait. Well, we're going to let you... Hey, there you are. There you
Alrighty. Sorry, pack-led pajama party here.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
How's it going tonight?
Good, good. Good to see your lovely faces, both of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lovely to meet you.
Very kind of you. And I was actually telling Rekha before the show tonight, you were just in LA. You're a big TV star now. So
I
we don't
am
know what to do with
basically
you anymore.
a blade of grass. So you may or may not see me in the background of a pilot of a TV show that may or may not get picked up. So
All right.
Woohoo!
Right on. That is the truly how the business works.
that's fine.
To that. And glad you're back home and glad you've called in to talk with us tonight. Thoughts, feelings, impressions. You don't have to do impressions if you don't want to. Talk to us
Good.
about absolute candor in the most truthful way you can.
Well, so many thoughts, and I don't even know where to start. I love how they flipped that one trope around with Elnor to where, he can never be the warrior nun because he's male. So I like seeing that gender, reverse of gender roles there.
Yeah.
I want to be a Romulan warrior nun. That is just
Right?
so amazing.
I'm thinking STLV cosplay. I think that has your name all over it.
I mean, it's pretty cold in there, so those robes would be nice and comfy. I don't know if I can get that sword through TSA, but we'll see what I can do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but one thing, like I said, so many places we can go with this episode, but a lot of Picard character development. And Picard is, definitely more of a flawed man than what we ever saw before. But I think that kind of got me thinking about how Picard, the series, is dealing with broken people a lot differently from how Next Gen or any other previous Star Trek iteration has, except maybe Discovery. I mean, Picard, that this episode or this whole series, people have talked about his hubris and, tearing down that Romulan's only sign and then having the audacity to, call the waiter and demand service. And, but I think the seeds of that were always there. And you kind of have to have that sort of hubris to be a starship captain. But I think now we're seeing the consequences of that dealt with, whereas in Next Generation and the original series and every other Star Trek, the arrogance of a captain was just kind of, I don't know, it was never really dealt with. It was just kind of assumed. Rios, another broken man, and he's got all these holograms of himself.
Which is psychologically just fascinating,
Yes.
It says so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to learn more about him. Is he really a narcissist? My first thought actually was that saves bandwidth on the computer to not have to generate different images.
Interesting.
But
yeah,
clearly he's trying to beat himself up over something, and I think the way he berates his holograms, he's berating himself. And could it be he doesn't trust anybody else but only himself? Raffi with her addiction issues. She gets booted out of Starfleet, and instead of, we live in a they live in a post-scarcity world without money, supposedly. There's no reason she couldn't be living on a chateau somewhere, but she chose to live in Vasquez Rocks and drink a lot and smoke snake oil or whatever, snake something.
Snakeweed or snake.
Snakeweed, yeah. So, I'm kind of like, on the one hand, we're 40% through the series, and there's still so many questions. I just can't wait to see where all these broken people are going to lead. The Picard's band of misfits.
Let me ask you both something. As I was having a chat earlier today with Norman, actually. Norman came up to visit the office. We had a great time kind of talking mission log stuff, but also talking Picard. And we started to get into this conversation about the character Jean-Luc Picard being broken, and is this quote unquote in character for him? And part of me says no, because he always was so heroic. He was the guy with the right idea at the right time, who stuck to his principles, stuck to the guns. But then also Picard changed. It's a different Picard in First Contact, shooting Borg with a Tommy gun, than was the Picard that we saw before. And I wonder if, I wonder what the conversations were like around developing this version of Picard for this series. And was it Patrick Stewart saying, hey, I really want Picard to have changed in these ways? Or the writers saying, well, what about all these things that have happened, or what could have happened, even if Jean-Luc acted with the best of intentions, things may not go the way they should. I believe it was in Next Gen that Picard said, you can do everything right and still lose. And is this a situation where supposedly he has done everything or almost everything right, but the circumstances are just simply beyond his control, and that still has this effect on him personally, emotionally, psychologically, that he becomes different? Or is it just that coupled with age? I mean, where do you see the, compare, contrast young Picard that we met in Next Gen versus Picard now, as you say, a broken man?
There's a lot of, he's changed in a lot of ways, like everybody does. The first, encounter at Farpoint, he specifically asked Riker to keep children away from him. But here we're seeing 14 years ago where he's developed this kind of fatherly, or at least mentorly, relationship with the young Elnor. The being assimilated obviously had a tremendous impact on him, as well as his the inner light, that whole experience. So all this adding up over time, I think, because we had two different instances where we had Raffi and then Elnor say, okay, now that you need me after 14 years, you don't say boo, and now that you need me for something, now you come by and say hi.
Yeah.
And I've heard some attribute that again to his kind of arrogance and hubris, but I think there's kind of the failure factor where failing in the rescue of the Romulans. And I don't think Picard's really used to failure, especially of that magnitude. And then I think that broke him a little bit, not really knowing how to deal with that. Seeing Raffi, lose her Starfleet commission because of her association with him. How do you approach someone after something like that? And then after a few weeks, a few months, it becomes a few years. It's like that email you didn't reply to right away. And then like 8 months later, are you going to reply to it? 14 years later, they're like, oh, now you're going to reply to my email now that you need something?
Yeah.
So I think, the trauma of, the synth attack, the Romulan, the failure to rescue the Romulans, it seemed to drive Picard kind of into a seclusion. And then once you're kind of in that lovely vineyard hole hidden away, how do you, I guess it's easy to kind of build the walls around yourself and isolate yourself from the people that you should be not only reaching out to you for your sake, but for their sake as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, I guess, because there's so much, particularly that has been created around Picard in Star Trek. We arguably got more of Picard than any other captain so far, because you've got 7 seasons of a TV show plus the movies. And that's just in terms of screen time, that's more than we ever got with Kirk or Janeway or Sisko or anybody else. So we all have kind of in our heads what Picard is like, but maybe it's a little unfair for us to say, well, Picard is like this because that's who he is, because that's who I've seen. It's interesting then when a writer or an actor or whomever, the combination of the creative forces at play here can come in and say, but what if this changes? What does this do to him? Then how do we as the audience accept that and say, that's the same guy, just on this different path because this changed? Or do we not accept it? Say, no, that's not the same guy. I can't accept that that's the same guy. I don't know. I like the depth, and I assume that he is and still will be heroic through this process of this series. But I'm very interested in seeing this changed person where things didn't work out with the happy ending for everybody. And
I think, some of it is the events in his life that have changed him as a person. But I think some of it is just the way storytelling evolves over the decades, where, in the 90s and the 80s, it was, the episodic TV, the 45 minutes and the happy ending. And now with the serialized storytelling, the writers are able to delve more into more, develop the characters more. And nowadays things are grittier and more, more real. It's not the Hilton in the sky. This is, 2020. So, I think a lot of the factors came into play. Like, I didn't really express it well earlier, but I think, the essence of his character is the same. I think the seeds for a lot of what we see now, I mean, this is like a man who's used to being in command. And I think I love kind of the little touches on the La Sirena there between him and Rios. But, we saw that in Next Gen, but it's kind of taken to a different level now. Yeah.
There are great subtle moments of humor. Like I think obviously with Rios's holograms, the humor is a little more broad, but I still like it. It still works. But there are so many nice little moments where just Patrick Stewart smiles or just kind of lets a joke kind of settle. It's nice to see. And even that bit with at the end of this episode, where he sort of gives the command to open up a channel to the pilot of that other ship, but he catches himself like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not the captain, you are. There's so many nice little moments like that play as absolutely real and don't feel canned.
Yes.
But Rhea. I was whatever your final thoughts are, I'd love for you to share them. We've got a few more people waiting to chat with us tonight. So if you've got anything you want to close with, let us know.
yeah, I just love that we're seeing very fully formed characters, very real characters here. And if I could get that Rios hologram package for home use, that would be awesome.
I'd like that too, actually. I think we could all sign up for one of those.
Yeah.
But just with him as all the versions. Not
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Not me.
Mission log after dark.
that show's coming. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Before we say goodbye to Rhea, I enjoyed listening to both of your points, and I just wanted to say too, what I love about this exploration of Picard too is that I think in a way I can kind of superimpose this depth and complexity onto all the years of Picard before and go, right, like, it's like as you get to know somebody, and you're into like year 6 of knowing them, and then you think back upon an incident in year 1 of knowing them, and you go, oh, that's who I was seeing then. And I just, my understanding of them was not as, didn't have as many dimensions as it does now.
Yeah. For better and for worse.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But it's a whole picture, and it's complex and layered, and we just don't have that in the early days of knowing one another.
Right.
Yeah, and absolutely all those things I 100% agree, attribute to that. He is a quote unquote failed man, but I don't think that he's broken. I think that is a societal thing that we sort of put on people. It's like, if anything, I think he's breaking open into a wiser, more loving, and accommodating human being. So
yeah, nicely said. All right, well, Rhea, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, and we'll see you soon. All right,
sounds great. Have a great night. Thank you.
Take care. You too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Hey, let's go to our next caller. I believe Karen is waiting patiently to chat with us and blow our minds with some comments here about Picard tonight. Karen, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Hey, doing all right. Welcome back.
It's good to hear from you guys.
Yeah, likewise.
I enjoyed the episode very much this week. I do believe it was my favorite one so far.
Ooh, how come?
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. I think because we got to see more of everybody, and just that just made it. I think, like Rhea was saying, you have these fully formed characters, and you're really starting to see that come out, and they're gelling really well as a group. I think.
I did
have a good dynamic.
I was thinking about, like, this feels like, this for me felt like I'm in this world. Like it can just relax into it somehow.
Yeah, like the whole study scene where everybody starts coming in and he's like, well, geez, I mean, and they're all comfortable coming in and talking to him and expressing themselves. And, it was real comfortable. I mean, I just felt like they were all comfortable together, and that made me comfortable and excited to see what they were talking about. And it was very fun. And I had a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Rios and his holograms, which have become such a fun part of the show. The first time we saw him, and there were 2 holograms of him, but different. People were kind of like, oh, what is this? But now that they've popped in 2 more, people are loving it. And I think it's just because you're starting to get this picture of him. And I was thinking, what if this ship came with this hologram package? And he was like, God, I don't want to fuss with this. And because we've all done this with computers and avatars and picking things. And he just didn't want to mess with it and dumped his own avatar in there. Just like, I'm just going to, you have to fill it out. And then as each of these holograms do have their own quirks and such, it became like he was talking to versions of himself.
Right.
And also he didn't like seeing himself, but he also didn't want to be around other people. So
yes.
I think, my little headcanon is, until we hear different, is just that he just didn't want to be bothered. He just set it up as quickly as possible. And now he has all of these facets of his personality basically walking around him.
You know, it's funny that you said that. I was actually helping somebody today and last week as well set up a thing in VR because, you know, we do the Roddenberry thing with Sansar. And every time you go in, you know, if you create a new account, you're creating an avatar of yourself. And they have some defaults that are pre-made. And now some people are very creative and very artistic and very clever and turn their avatars into something super cool. I do not have that talent. So when I created my avatar, I thought, all right, one day I'm going to make this look awesome, make it look really cool. And no, I look like a German nightclub owner. And I don't know how to change it and make it any better. It's just how I look in virtual reality. So your headcanon totally jibes with my understanding of my frustration of the technology. He even says in there, like, it was just part of the basic installation. And I'm like, yeah, that's my experience with Sansar. It's the basic installation. I have neither the talent nor the time to make something awesome out of it. So that's what you're going to get.
That's kind of what I feel like maybe happened with him, you know?
Yep.
But I just think that's pretty fun, and it's got to be fun for him. But my one other question, and I don't
definitely having a great time.
Oh, isn't he? And he's just great. It's just great.
So fun to watch.
So you say you have one other comment?
A better person. Yeah, I just, you know, I know that everybody's least favorite part this week was the Borg cube and Merrick and Soji, etc. But it occurred to me when Rizzo / Narissa, is that her real name, Narissa? For some reason, I think it is.
Yes.
One thing is, Narek is clearly, little by little, just parting ways with her whole plan and is not interested. He was very frustrated with her, you know, his banging his head on the wall when she left. I think he feels between a rock and a hard place, and doesn't know what to do about that, I think. But what was interesting to me was when she was razzing him and she got him in that chokehold, he could not get her hand off his throat. She was like super strong.
Yep.
And I was like, I just am not sure she is what everybody thinks she is. And this whole brother-sister thing, I don't think is really brother-sister. And I think that was a clue about her.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. That's very interesting that you would phrase it like that and kind of float this idea out to us. I have to tell you, the whole Romulan brother-sister thing, that has probably become the most interesting thread of comments on the Mission Log Facebook page. It is the thing that we talked about before going on air tonight. It is in both of our notes. I do not know what to make of this. Karen, your line is breaking up just a little bit, so I'm going to ask Reka to give her comments here, and then we'll let you go and move to the next caller. But thank you for bringing up what is probably really the Romulan elephant in the room here.
Totally.
Yeah. Talk about. I just would be interested if you think. I mean, I'm not sure that she's biological at all.
Okay, well, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe we just have to start telling ourselves that.
I'm going to have to tell myself something, Karen.
Okay.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. Sorry, but you are really breaking up a lot for whatever reason. So
we'll say goodbye until next time. But yeah.
All right.
Take care, Karen. So yeah, is this going to make the show more acceptable, or at least this plot thread in the show a little easier to go down if you just keep telling yourself, okay, something else up here. They're not really brother, sister.
It would make it a little easier to digest, but that's certainly not the information they're giving us at this point. It feels like so exploitive and unnecessary and just titillation for titillation's sake. Like, ooh, this is bad. Like, let's make them really sexy together because that's disgusting. Like, what?
Right.
Like,
okay, so Exactly. You phrased it perfectly. I love it. So, but this is sort of like the conversation we had last week. And you and Norman had as well about the language on, dropping an F-bomb here and there. It's like,
but there's so much language too that's like thinly veiled, like between the brother and sister. It could be totally interpreted as sexual.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm okay with the show pushing the envelope. I really am. I'm not prudish about these things. All I ask is that you earn it. So if you're going to drop an F-bomb, just really earn it. And then don't just keep using that as a chip to show me how much you've been pushing the envelope. I feel the same way about the Romulans.
Like have some payoff.
Yeah.
Have it be grounded in some kind of story that's intriguing and interesting. And as Karen said, that perhaps that's not their relationship. Okay, then that becomes like a value, hopefully, to the story, to the overall plot. Right now, it just feels like a device in the same way that the F-bombs feel like a device to be cool, to be edgy or whatever. And I'm just like, come on, there's so much depth and wonderful stuff happening in the rest of the show. Why you guys got to go there?
Right. And it's a little like, when we were watching episodes of Star Trek that were 45-minute, 5-act commercial TV, you would set your watch by, okay, we're going to get to the end of Act 2 or Act 3, and then here's this cliffhanger that has to come up to hold me over through the commercial break. So those contrivances are built in. Right. Now the contrivance is something else where it's, all right, an episode of Picard is really a season of Picard because we're setting up a story, playing it out, and then ending it over 10 episodes. So now you've got 4 episodes in which we've got this teasing, weird relationship just to make you wonder, like, what's really up with them? Are they actually going there? To get us through the next 6 episodes. Yeah. So it's frustrating because on this level, it does just feel like contrivance. But I agree with you 100%. If there's payoff, if there's a reason to do it, if you can blow my mind with something, great.
Yeah, I will eat my words happily.
Yes.
Happily.
Right.
But until we see that, I'm not sold by what we're seeing so far. That's for sure.
Carlos in the chat says, maybe brother and sister are terms for members of the Zhat Vash. Maybe. Okay. Like where you're going with this, Carlos.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to step in for me next week, Carlos? I think you got this down. And other people, Chris saying the F-bombs didn't stop the action. And let's see. And David.
Yes.
Pardon? Go ahead.
I was just going to say part of the thing that we were talking about earlier is if it's just for the sake of being cool, or even if it doesn't stop the action and it doesn't impede the storytelling, which for me the F-bombs, I didn't even register them, which is a little bit sad. But just the fact that there are viewers that we're losing, there are people who don't like swearing, don't like this kind of challenging viewpoints on what a brother and sister could be. But also it occurred to me children, Star Trek changed my life at a very young age. It changed the way I saw the world, and that's powerful. And if children can't watch the show, they're missing out on that possibility.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of broke my heart, that call that we had last week.
Yeah.
Where the caller is saying that his wife just couldn't watch it and Picard was her captain. Yeah. And I hate hearing that. I really do. Now, here's the thing. I want challenging adult stories out of my popular entertainment. I really do. And I like to see something that on the surface, you can look at Star Trek and go, oh, okay, it's morality plays set in space. But if you can keep pushing me and taking me further and further where I get real character depth and some really challenging social and political ideas out of it, that's awesome. I love that.
Love it.
But I don't want to turn people away at the door who just, for whatever reason, don't like or can't handle that. However, I do have great hope that there is other Star Trek coming that maybe is the right Star Trek for that audience.
Absolutely.
I hope that's the case. I really do.
Me too.
Cool. Let's go to our next caller. I believe that we have JD who is standing by. So JD will be next. I believe JD is on the phone, and Earl is going to drop him into the chat here any second. That's me vamping.
Okay.
I'm so, oh man, I'm so hardcore at vamping right now. That is that is what I do. Hey, while we're waiting for JD, because I know we've had some technical, and by the way, for everybody who joins us regularly on the show, and you see what an amazing job Earl does just keeping this running, because this is not easy. Reka and I have it easy. We turn on a computer, we turn on a camera, we talk, we have fun. Earl's running 2 computers, multiple pieces of software, juggling calls, and the dude just moved cross country this week. So I've said it to him privately. Wow. I want to say it publicly here to everybody who's listening. Earl does a killer job. Earl has just been working above and beyond. So thank you so much to Earl for doing everything that you do. So every now and then when we have a little hiccup, something drops out, caller, whatever, look, it's all good. It's all par for the course. So here we go. I believe we have JD now joining us. Yeah. JD, what's up?
Well, I have a question. I'm a bit of a nerd for the continuity stuff. And in Nemesis, did we not find out that, well, obviously the Remans, they're kind of an isolationist society, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, but Remus is in the same system as Romulus, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So when that star went supernova and destroyed Romulus, am I to assume that it took out Remus as well?
We could assume. I'm not really sure. I mean, they haven't said anything specific about that in this, other than to say, hey, a lot of Romulans in a lot of places were displaced. So
yeah, that's what bugs me, is that nobody's mentioned the Remans, and despite a lot of references to Nemesis, which kind of shocks me in the first place, because Nemesis was not a good movie, and it was so badly received that for a while I thought Star Trek 2009, having Romulus destroyed and creating an alternate universe, I honestly thought that was like an apology for Nemesis.
No.
But it turns out, no, it's a plot point that but it's like nobody's mentioning if Remus was destroyed or what happened to the Remans, and it bugs me. Like, as the show goes, like, it's gnawing at me, and I'm kind of hoping they address it at some point. I try not to get too nitpicky with things, but that's just bugging me.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I think something interesting that was pointed out in the chat is that this is the first time we've seen a lot more variation in the Romulans. So we've seen multiple races with the Romulans, and then the whole thing with the ridged forehead being from the north. Like, that was a really cool little detail. So we're showing diversity even among the Romulans that we know. So it's not out of the question then that we might see some more of the Remans or whomever else the further we go.
Yeah, because I do like that variation. Like, all the Romulans don't look the same, because really, if you watch TNG, we never really see Romulan civilians, if my memory serves me right.
Right.
We only ever see the ones that are in the military. So they're on the ships. They all have the same hair. They all have the same uniforms. And I'm actually enjoying seeing just average Romulan citizens that we really never got to see.
100%. The diversity there is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. Yeah. I just really kind of wish that on the show, and this goes for the people on Earth too, that are not wearing the Starfleet uniforms, there's a disturbing lack of futuristic psychedelic spandex jumpsuits that everybody was wearing in the 24th century on TNG and DS9.
Yes.
And there's no rainbow sweaters.
Yeah. Oh, man.
There's so many muted.
So right. Yes.
Yeah, there's so many muted color tone, and some of the clothes some of them are so stylish they could almost be like modern type clothes, but there's no multicolored utility suits. It's very strange. Like, we saw the waitstaff in that Romulan outpost, and none of them were even wearing ridiculous waiters' uniforms. It's odd.
Yeah. You're right. I think, you know what? My cure for that, when I go home tonight, I'll have to pop in an episode of Buck Rogers. So I have like, I have extra additional futuristic spandex in my weekly viewing just to make up for the lack of it in Picard.
Yeah, because I mean the weird teal waitstaff uniforms that they use in 10 Forward on the D is just I kind of miss the hideous clothing. So,
JD, this is my favorite comment of the night so far. I think absolutely you're right. Listen, we're up against the clock. We still have a few more callers to get to. So I really appreciate it. And hey, thank you for looking out for the Remans. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to help. Somebody has to. Somebody has to remember that.
Exactly.
Thanks, JD.
Right.
Have a great night, JD.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, next up we have Michael, who has been waiting, and I'm not going to do the vamping thing again. At least I'll save that. But even by saying that, it is a little bit of vamping that I say. See, right? That's a little trick. And then all of a sudden, Michael's ready to go. Woo-hoo! Michael's here. How you doing, Michael?
Hey guys, I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing very well.
Good,
thanks for calling in tonight. What's on your mind?
Pleasure to finally be able to call in. I'm always working night shifts, so I never get to call in.
Welcome.
Just wanted to first say, since it's my first time calling in after Picard, welcome to Reka. And I just find it absolutely amazing that the first time you're joining us is when there are skin jobs that think they're human and have a plan in Star Trek, which is just great.
Nice.
I guess I'll just be brief since I think there's a couple other people waiting. But I was just going to mention also, I really love the Romulan world building. I think it's some of the best world building we've actually had in Star Trek so far that isn't related to Earth. And awesome. I think that is something Star Trek could definitely use more of. I also wanted to say, I think it just occurred to me today that this show is kind of reminding me of like Timeless and Endgame and Voyager, except they didn't go back in time and change the past. Because, like something goes wrong and everything goes horrible and, everybody's all depressed, but then they go back in time and change it. Well, it's like that, except Picard's now got to deal with it instead, which I think is kind of neat. They didn't tech the tech this time. They're just going to go forward with it.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of curious. I guess my main thing, does anyone else feel like they kind of don't like Picard as much in this series? I've kind of come to that feeling now, like, because I feel like let's see, how can I put this? I feel like they're, like all the things that they've shown him, like as having had issues with in terms of, giving up on Raffi, giving up on the Romulans and kind of isolating and things like that. But then when he's getting back into it, it just seems like he's not really trying to account for any of that. And he just wants everything to be the way it was before. And he's almost like shocked when nobody will treat him like the great admiral anymore. Like I thought there was going to be a secret plan when he went to the admiral for help, and then he basically bullies Raffi into helping him. And I don't know. I'm a little concerned about where it's going.
I feel the opposite, honestly. I feel like, I know what you're saying, that he doesn't totally change. But I think that's so true to life. I think we don't know how to stop being the way that we've been for so many years. And even though we see its error, and I feel like I see this in the performance and in the writing too, where he's, taking pause and making some small changes, but still falling into the same old patterns, and recognizing that things are wrong, but not knowing how to approach it differently. And I think we all do that. And as long as, at some point he does that ratio starts to change, is what I'm hoping is going to happen, is that he starts to find his way. But we're really at the beginning of it all,
I kind of,
That's true.
I like the way you put that. And I will actually compare this to Kirk. So, season 1, Kirk on TOS has that great line, like, there's no room on the bridge for bigotry, right? And that's we're setting up this hero. We're setting up this guy with this great moral center, right? Fast forward to Star Trek 6, and here's Kirk ready to let all Klingons die.
Yeah.
Because he can't see past his own prejudice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the same Kirk, but everybody has a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has something that they carry with them that maybe keeps them from being as great as they could or should be. And I like the idea that we've seen so much heroicism out of Picard for so long, but if that's all he was all the time, he would be inhuman. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a risk of maybe too much. There's a risk of maybe choosing themes or ways to explore that just don't feel right to some viewers, but I want to see, particularly over time, because we're talking about 25 plus years, 30 plus years now that we've had Picard in our lives. I want to see more complexity, and I want to see sort of the chinks in the armor, as it were. And but I also want to see him become a better person because of that.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. And, I didn't mean to imply that I felt like this character should be static, that he should be the same character that he was before or anything like that. I like the idea of showing him failing and then having to come back from it. But I guess I've had a hard time nailing it down. There's been a disconnect for me between what they've shown us and what they're telling us. And it feels like they're telling us all these negative things about him, but they're showing us the same old Picard that we've known and loved forever. And it doesn't really feel like they're super connected to me. And I mean, maybe that's just my own personal, perspective, like just the way I'm seeing it. Maybe nobody else sees it that way, but I just haven't felt, it feels a little disconnected to me. Like I would love to see, it would be interesting to me to see that Picard that's realizing that he's having issues and is out of touch, but it doesn't really seem like he even realizes he's out of touch yet.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I think it is disconnected. And I think that's what makes it so human. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we all do. We just don't even see it.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean disconnected between him and his thoughts. I mean between the way the show is presenting him to us. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to the way he sees himself.
Yeah. I get that. Hey, this is a fascinating call and a really interesting way to look at this character. I hope that you will call in again and we can continue this conversation as the series goes on.
Yeah, guys.
Because I'm very curious to see how it plays out and what we end up with. We do have at least one more caller waiting, so I'll say goodbye to you tonight, and then we'll pick this up again.
Bye,
okay?
guys.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. So now here's the funny thing. As we wait for the next call to come in, and I promise you that I would not be vamping, John Cooley in the chat says that I say that I'm not vamping, but I am vamping, yet I say I'm not vamping, so I cannot be vamping. And then his mind just head explode. So, yeah. Hey,
thanks, John Cooley.
our final caller tonight, James. James, welcome to the show, friend of the show. How you doing?
Thank you. I am a friend of the show, but I have never actually called into the show. So,
Hey, friend of show.
Virgin call into the show. All right. So,
first time caller, long time listener, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well. Yes. Let's go with that. So I have two things that I'd like your take on. First of all, in relation to the whole Romulan brother-sister thing.
Yes.
That has been touched on.
So many notes.
Peyton List is a phenomenal actress. She was in Flash Forward. She's I feel like in this show, there is a disconnect between the style of her interactions with her quote brother and all of the other acting in the show. If that makes any sense. It is a kind of, I don't want to use a derogatory term, but it's almost the sniveling villain kind of thing that's going on.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat called it the mustache twirling.
Yeah. It is very much so.
Isn't that weird? Because it's so out of, I feel it's very not in sync with Patrick Stewart or any of the other actors in the show, and the way that it's a very natural show, naturalistic in its acting style. And that seems very disconnected to me. So, yeah.
I agree with that totally. And then the question is there a payoff to that? Is there a reason that we're going to get for that actually justifies it? Or is it just a weird choice and you pick up the script and go, oh, this is the mustache twirling victim?
Yeah. But the other thing that I was going to say in regards to like a couple of your earlier callers with Picard's evolution over time is that, let's be honest, Picard in TNG often got lucky. He got into situations that there seemed to be no way out, and he happened to pull a third option out of his butt, and everything got solved because, again, in the 80s and 90s, everything had to be solved in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like we're seeing a Picard now who has not changed in any way as a man. He's the same Picard we've always seen, but he is a Picard in Commander Adama's position. He is a Picard faced with moral tugs that there is not always an easy answer to, and having to live with the results of those decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem, he doesn't seem to be a changed person to me. He seems to be the same Picard, just in a more modern storytelling venue.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I do not disagree with that at all. Yeah. Perfect. That's the perfect.
Plus, just further along in time, and 14 years have gone by, right?
Yeah. And things that frustrated us watching, even on Mission Log, things that frustrated us watching TNG or TOS or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, we solved the problem in 45 minutes, and now we go away, and we will never hear from that or speak of it again.
Exactly.
Even though there were some profound things that happened, and you might have a little callback, but you don't actually know what the ramifications were of that event. And here it's like, oh, wow, there's a personal price to pay.
And that's nothing against the writers of TNG. I mean, they were writing for the time.
Right.
That was the way television was at the time. But now it is arguably more sophisticated. And I would say, so we're seeing this incredibly nuanced character of Picard that we've all come to know and love, as you said, more than any other captain. Yeah. And we're seeing him now in more of a realistic situation and how he would respond to that. So I would anyway, my point is that I would dispute that this is a different Picard. I would say it's the same Picard, just in a more sophisticated situation.
I agree.
Yeah, dude. And Rhea chiming in on the chat. Yes, James, agree 100%.
Nice.
So boom, Team James.
There you go. Boom.
Right there. All right. Hey, thank you for calling in. And it was the first time. Better not be the last. I know how to find you.
I'll find you.
But we're up against the clock. It was already 8 o'clock. We had our hour. And look, this was so good. So many good calls. So many good comments. Not only did Reka and I not get to all of our notes, we didn't even do the promo. So, podcast.roddenberry.com. Go there. Download stuff. Okay? That's it. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, Reka. Thank you, James. Thank you, Earl. Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer, Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live by the incomparable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/Mission Log. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later, and we will talk to you next week.